Hey traders, and welcome back to another trading strategy tutorial. I'm your host Kevin Dubrisky with Bullish Bears, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to trade the gap fill. This is a great trading strategy, and it doesn't matter if you trade forex, futures, stocks. It's a great system to know for imbalances and for finding key price levels that the market might want to rebalance itself. So let's get into it, and I'll break down what the gap fill is and how you guys could trade it. So what is a gap fill? A gap occurs when price opens significantly higher or lower than the previous close. A gap fill happens when the price retraces to fill the gap area. Why do gap fills happen? Well, market inefficiencies from overnight news or earnings, or even if just the market's moving because futures markets are open 23 hours a day, this could give us a significant change in price from the 4 p.m. Eastern, which is the New York session close, to the 9:30 a.m. Eastern, which is the New York session open. Institutional orders balancing the price may also occur, and that's what happens when we get those gap fills. This image on the right hand side is an example of a gap fill. So we had the previous day's close, we have our current day's open, which gave us a big gap in price, and eventually after price dipped to grab some liquidity, we ended up moving higher and we filled the gaps. So right now we're looking at the NQ, which is the NASDAQ futures. So to find the gap fill, what we want to do is we want to find the New York session gap fill. So we're going to find the 4 p.m. Eastern candle open. And we're going to come take our trend line tool, which we could use our horizontal ray on TradingView. I come to the 4 o'clock candle over here, and I'm going to mark the open of the 4 o'clock candle, not the close, which if it's a green candle, the close will be higher. If it's a red candle, the close will be lower. So right now we marked the open and we got our gap fill price level. Another way you could find the gap fill when you're looking at futures and on TradingView, or another platform as well, is you could turn the electronic or extended trading hours off and turn on regular trading hours. This will give you that 9:30 to 4 o'clock. Now, the one thing I want to mention, guys, on TradingView, it gives you the 4 o'clock candle. So if you're looking at the 30-minute candle, it's going to give you that. So that's leading up to 4:30. So same situation, you're going to find that 4 o'clock candle and mark the open. We're going to find a 4 o'clock candle and mark the open. Here's a 4 o'clock right here. As we see, guys, this was a very small gap fill. Price opened up only not even 10 points away from the gap fill on NASDAQ. So that was a very small gap. That was a gap that did get filled statistically. But that wouldn't be a gap that I would really acknowledge or look to trade. Now, we did have a better gap fill right here, and what I noticed too with this price level is we tried to hold it as support and we failed. So once we tried to hold it as support, we failed and closed below. We ended up using that support as resistance, and that's another way we could use previous gap fill prices as key levels in our trading. I personally use supply and demand, so I'll look for a gap fill price level to line up with a supply or demand zone to give me more confluence and confirmation and confidence on that trade. So now we're looking at Microsoft because I did want to cover a stock for the gap fill video because it is a strategy we can use on almost every market. So what I wanted to do for this gap fill is I wanted to first show you how you would find it. So similar to how we found futures, we would have our regular trading hours on, but you see how we now have a 3:30 candle instead of our 4 o'clock candle. So we would then mark our 3:30 close, which would be our 4 o'clock open, and that would be our gap fill price. Now I'm going to be using the gap fill indicator on TradingView. This is the gap fill by session. This is an Edgeful specific indicator. And I'm going to show you guys also the great part about Edgeful with the gap fill trading strategy is we're able to sort of see the statistics, and that gives us a chance of looking at the odds on our gap fill trade working out. So we're able to look at the report, we're able to look at whatever ticker we're looking at, we're able to look at stocks, forex, crypto, or futures. We could look at standard, which is just all of the gap fills up, gap fills down. We could look at by size, and now it goes by a percentage for by size, so the very small gap fills tend to get filled a lot more frequently than the larger gap fills. Once we get a bit larger in price, we see that the odds start to decrease. So very interesting. Always good to look at the statistics. We could also look at it by weekday as well. As we see on Mondays for the past 6 months, when we have a gap down, we have an 86% chance of it filling. And we had 14 gap downs in the past 6 months on a Monday, and 12 of them ended up filling. So that is very high in our probability, in our chances. So we would look for Microsoft on a gap down on a Monday for a long position to target the gap fill. And that's how we could use our gap fill trading strategy along with a tool sort of like Edgeful. I'll make sure to put a link below so you guys could try out a 7-day trial on Edgeful. So make sure you guys check that out in the description. So back to Microsoft and what we were looking at before. What I see, now what we see here is we have our gap ups are in blue, so it's shaded blue, and then the filled gaps have the orange line on it. So we had our blue, and then we filled the gap, and we have the price level wherever the gap was. So as we see, these gap ups did not get filled. This gap got filled, this gap got filled, this gap got filled. So the past 3 days on Microsoft, we have been filling the gaps. Now we could also use this in our advantage to say, okay, what has been trending, what hasn't been trending. I see Microsoft failed to fill the gap here, failed to fill it here, filled it a few times over here, but now I know at this point on Friday, I know that we've had a lot of inconsistency, so I might be a little skeptical on taking any type of gap fill trade. Whereas if I'm looking more over here, I could see that we have a lot more gap fills. We have a gap fill, gap fill, gap fill. We didn't fill it, gap fill, gap fill, gap fill, gap fill. So we have a lot of gap fills in this one cluster area. So we could look for that trend to continue on Microsoft. Something else we could see as well, we have a lot of gap fills in these areas. These are smaller gap fills, but this could also work to our advantage because this is when the market was in an uptrend. So we could look for whatever gap downs we have to take some long positions to potentially swing some calls or some stocks on Microsoft. I hope this video helped, guys. Have a great day. Happy trading. Hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to join our community at bullishbears.com for live trading every single day. And you could join me at tradingpioneers.net for one-on-one coaching sessions and some mentorship. Take care and happy trading.